Welcome to Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing, one of the fastest growing real estate investing podcasts in the world. What if you could learn from experienced real estate investors? Find out what got them to where they are now. Get insight into their daily habits and take these insights to inspire your own growth. Each episode, Jonathan Greene shares an in-depth look at the mindful approach to real estate investing. Jonathan is a lifelong real estate investor and the founder of Streamline, a data-driven, investor-friendly, independent real estate brokerage located in Madison, New Jersey. Whether you're looking to start from scratch, get to the next level, or just for a straightforward and honest approach to real estate investing, this is the free mentorship program you can take with you anywhere. Now, here's Jonathan.
Thanks for showing up for another episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. I'm excited for you to hear from Spencer Hilligoss today. He's from Madison Investing, where they help you invest privately, grow strategically, de-risked passive investing opportunities, better terms, and deep diligence built for investors who expect more from their real estate portfolios. Let's go. This is episode 306 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Spencer Hilligoss. Spencer is the CEO and co-founder of Madison Investing, and there he drives Madison's investing, the strategic vision, investor relations, and business development efforts. He's also an active investor, speaker who loves sharing his expertise on real estate and financial growth strategies. Spencer, welcome to the show.
Jonathan, honored to be here. Really excited for the conversation.
Yeah, and shout out to Seth Bradley, a former guest who's the one who connected us. I know your background, though. Let's get right into it, because you grew up in a real estate background, but not the investor kind. You grew up in an agent household. How was it growing up in that type of household?
You know, if you had asked me as a teenager, I would have said, not that cool.
Yeah. Well, you were hosting open houses as a kid, so that doesn't sound like that much fun unless you're getting a whole bunch of money.
That's right. I mean, and the one shout out that I wish I could go back and kind of, grab myself figuratively by the shoulders, Jonathan, and say like, hey, wake up. This is actually really cool. Is, I don't know if there's any 49ers fans out there, but I remember going to an open house when I was really young. I mean, this is like 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a Joe Montana introduction, and a couple of those moments where I'm like, wow, this is some kind of important person. I didn't really appreciate it at the time, but there's photos of me like sitting on the land with my dad that he's about to sell a plot of land or cleaning out fridges for rental properties. But basically, grew up in this household. My dad was a broker in California in the Bay Area. It afforded the family a nice lifestyle, but he did that for 30 years. And at the time, I thought it was pretty uncool to tell your friends when you grow up in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Tech is the name of the game. And I got scared into tech companies. And I was not planning on some master, plan to become a leader in business. I was like a punk rock kid, hence all the tattoos and playing in bands. And I thought, oh, well, let me go try this Craigslist ad to join a tech company. And I did it. Flash forward 13 years, and I ended up becoming relatively senior business operations and growth and sales leader for these fintech companies, for Intuit and Xero and Gusto and now at Stripe and all these. This journey has been very exciting. Frankly, I love the leadership in W-2 world. I know the real estate investing community has a lot to say about the W-2 rat race, but it generally treated me very well. And so very, very grateful for that journey.
Oh, along the 13 years while you were in tech, were you investing in real estate outside of personal residences at all?
So we're very grateful we bought a residence ahead of our peer group. So we found one of the few affordable markets in Alameda that we could back in 2013.
Yeah.
Eventually, a mentor of mine in the corporate world nudged me to take a gig in lending home. Now it's called Kiavi.
Right.
Big hard money lender. And I was hired there brought in to lead their origination groups. And so
you're seeing it all.
I was seeing it all.
Yeah.
That's perfectly said. When you see the guts inside the lender and you're like, okay, 500 plus individual loans per month.
Yeah.
And this is flippers. And I'm not a flipper. I could barely swing a hammer.
Yeah.
But you're seeing first time flippers who just watched HGTV. They don't know what they're doing and they're trying to find some support, and God bless them for trying to get there, but it's tough. On the other side, you've got very experienced flippers. So I learned underwriting.
Yeah.
From a single family lens. And also had to get licensed as a loan originator because I was trying to earn the respect of a bunch of very experienced, salty loan originators. And so you have to go do the work if you want to get the respect and lead the team. But that was around the time I was like, man, I cannot flip. I'm not a handy guy, but I get business. I get the financials. I understand partnerships. And so we started investing, at least initially, in some rentals locally. Bought a $200 a month cash flowing duplex in the Bay Area. Spent way too much money down.
I mean, $200 a month in the Bay Area is pretty decent when you're getting in. I mean, like that, because you're going to get much better appreciation.
I appreciate you saying that, Jonathan. I mean, I was trying to explain that. Yeah. I mean, to friends who were based in other states, we've lived in Colorado for a decade, for example. And you explain that to folks in the Midwest and friends in the South, and they're like, man, that sucks. And you're like, well, if you break even in the Bay Area, that's actually a pretty good start.
Yeah, just wait 2 years and you're up 350 and you're like, well, that's pretty good.
Absolutely. We've had that duplex now for around a decade and it's doing great. It's gone up in value. We thought that was not a cash flow win, and we didn't understand goal setting for cash flow because Jennifer, she has her own career. I had my own career. So we buy that rental, have our infant son in the car, try to find that property all summer. We then go and say, okay, 100K down is not going to get us that far if we keep biting off these chunks. Yeah. And we just can't, we don't have that much capital. But we found Kansas City at the time. You could cash flow, gosh, it was like $250 a month with a purchase price of $60K.
Right. Your money down is like negligible.
And you're getting loans with reasonable rates on these things. And so we got up to a little portfolio of about 5. And that was great. We sold those since, but we were getting notices for all the things that landlords get. We were getting the couch sitting on the grass of a property. I was supposed to go to the property manager because we were paying for those. And, you're getting just all kinds of stuff you don't want to deal with headache wise. So we're like, well, we were still working, full time, very much focused on that. A couple of young kids, capacity is tight. We didn't want to add more to the plate. So we were like, okay, we got to find something more passive. And so that's where we started to look elsewhere for LP investing, like limited partner, just doing passive investing. And we started doing that around 2018, early 2018. And it served us very well. Obviously, the timing helped in the market, but I was networking like a madman. I mean, I was going to local REIT meetups and just talking to folks who were smarter than me and knew this business, and because the brokerage lens is just the most narrow lens compared to the broader world of investing. And I'm just so grateful for all those connections I made in that power networking phase.
Yeah. I have so many questions. I wanted to go back one on the kind of growing up. I grew up with a dad who was an investor. He wasn't an agent. He was just investing. So I learned a different way. But I also, even though I thought it was cool and I met tenants, I wasn't like, hey, let's go pick up rent. I was like, let me get a video game and some food after. But I think like through osmosis, I was learning so much. Did you feel like that too? That later, especially even now, you're like, wow, I really was learning a lot. Even when I was trying not to learn, I was just there. So it's impressed upon you and kind of ingrained in you.
I really appreciate that question, Jonathan. I feel like a lot of folks kind of miss that insight about growing up in an entrepreneurship household sometimes.
Well, and especially because when you're younger, you try not to listen to your parents, but you're still like, you don't have your fingers in your ear, you hear it. And I felt, at least from my experience, that later I was like, wow. And also I started to listen.
There's always that. Yeah. And in hindsight, I mean, gosh, that's on point. Osmosis is happening, whether we want to see it or not. Yeah. And my fingers were very firmly in my ears at that time.
Yeah.
But I look at it like when I made the very conscious decision. This is back in 2016-ish with Jennifer and I. I'll flash back to the insight from my dad's business, but we sat down this one weekend, hired a sitter, and we said, okay, something's got to give. We were burned out. And I was like, okay, we are going to sit down and plan our cash flow number, our passive cash flow number, like what's our freedom number? We got into very direct conversations. There was tears, there was laughter, there was reconciliation, and a few dozen cycles of that within one weekend. And we walked out of that weekend with our number, and everyone tries to kind of skip that step, but I don't think I would have been prepared for that step or seen the need for it had I not gone through the experience of watching my dad's business kind of how do I say it? Like it was just downsized because his business went through a brutally hard time.
Yeah.
And it was when we kind of call it the dark decade in our family. And I won't depress people here too much, but it's what happened. Younger brother at the time, he was a teen. He passed from a long battle with cancer. And my dad's income was the only income for the household, because he was not an investor.
And it's a commission business. So if you have to be available.
And if you're not on, and if you're not available, then you're not making that income, and so watching that impact of a single income brokerage family, one entrepreneur actively working for that active income, something sunk in there, something sunk in there. And as a father of a family now, I'm sitting there going, what can I do to de-risk this? Something else has to be done if, like, God forbid, I get hit by a bus or something, and in hindsight, also the work ethic. Like I remember seeing my dad get up at 4 a.m. and I'd be like, I'm never going to do that. Why the heck was he doing that? And now, guess what time I was waking up for the 2-year period of time doing the job before the job when we were building our investing club, Madison Investing. That was what I did, and that was from Dad. Like that was very firmly, looking back, the work ethic, the learnings of watching the arc in his business and the challenging times. I really appreciate you asking that question.
Yeah, and I feel a similarity between how we learned, because it was different because you had the broker side, but you also said you were going, getting rid of stuff out of refrigerators. But my dad introduced me to all the tenants, and he introduced me to all of his partners. So I also owned a lot of properties before I was 18. So I was involved in deals. And what I learned from it, and I'm sure, I want to get your take on it too, is I learned that real estate is just absolutely a people game. All the numbers and stuff that, you can crunch on spreadsheets are one thing. But if you're not focused on the people, you're going to make bad deals, and you're not going to get the best deals. And by shaking those hands and having those, even like you said, you're having this conversation, with your wife about what our number is. Like I had to learn to have uncomfortable conversations because I was collecting rent at 15. You're sitting at an open house like, oh, this is, what am I supposed to tell? I don't know about the property. Like those uncomfortable conversations make it much easier, I think, when you're an adult to go into those, RIAs where maybe you're at the lower end of the scale and say like, hey, I want to help some people. I also want to get some help.
Gosh, yes. It's almost like this ethos. It's a difference between transactional
exactly.
And really looking at that handshake as something that's an investment, and it's an investment in people. Even despite all those learnings, which I completely agree with, I still went into that W-2 career, Jonathan, and I was like, okay, it's all, when you're in your 20s, we all do it. Like it's all about me, right? It's all about me. It's all about my career, yada, yada. But what you just said is so true. Like the salient point is like invest forward in the people that you care about in your life, and just folks you happen to meet, because it is such a small world, and it really does come back around every single time.
Yeah. And I was thinking like, it is me, but then all of a sudden, like we have kids, and then you look at your income a whole different way, right? It just changes. You get married, you have kids, and it's like, wait, now I have generations that I need to provide for ahead of me. And that, to me, like I didn't start passive investing really until last year in terms of, LP. So I'm like excited to hear you at a younger age knowing that LP was the way to go. But I just think it's something that, boy, generationally, it makes a lot more sense. Did your investor perspective change when you had kids?
I feel like it started.
Yeah.
Right. But that's what's fascinating. I felt like I was on it in my 20s because I had joined Fortune 500 company at Intuit,
right?
Doing 401k, maxing 401k, feeling really cool in a nerdiest way possible, just like maxing that thing out and thinking I knew money, right? Like I know wealth. And then that rabbit hole never stops. Like once you fall into this wonderful world of finance and private investing and private equity and passive investing, et cetera, I have yet to find the bottom in the sense of like, how do you peel that onion back and keep learning? And I think it was an awakening of sorts. Also because when you're in the Silicon Valley, lottery, as it were.
Yeah.
I kept joining earlier and earlier stage companies like A series funding, B series funding, these really early startups, thinking I'm going to get the get out of jail free card that not everyone, but a lot of people in Silicon Valley try to do. which is they want to join the next Google or the next Uber or the next Meta. Whatever company will have a huge exit and absolve all their financial sins.
Yeah.
And when I got through 3 of those companies and I still didn't have that exit, I was like, well, where's the off ramp, man?
Yeah.
Because if you don't get it there, you have to get more systematic somehow, because you're not going to build some people can pull it off. Some people can build financial freedom in the W-2 world, just career grinding it out.
Yeah.
Most people cannot. And
especially not now. Yeah. Much harder now.
Especially not now. This ain't the 50s or 60s or 70s. I mean, we truly now have to get creative with additional income streams, active, passive, and beyond. So that was where I got the spark lit. And even further back in 2014-ish, I was working for the most hardcore startup I had ever worked for, and a great company. Glad I have equity in it now.
Yeah.
But 12 hours a day in office, when we had an infant child and like I didn't see him for 2 weeks during that period of time, it was just like something's got to give.
Yeah.
Right. Like, not only can I not sustain this type of work over a period of time physically, it's also just something that mathematically was not adding up. Right. We had to get something going in the meantime, and that's when we kind of started to pen this idea of like financial offense and financial defense in our family. To think like, okay, defense being frugality, like of course. Frugality, tax strategy. How do we make sure we have less that we more that we keep, less going out? And an offense being like, how do we grow the wealth, man? Like how do beyond a savings account? How do we actually go and do something with this?
Well, it's interesting though, because real estate investing tax strategies involve offense, defense, because the acquisition of a property can give you such a tax advantage that it can reduce something. So like once you start figuring that out, it's kind of interesting. You're playing, I find like it's kind of Tetris, especially because you can use depreciation through different years depending on what you're using. So it's a good formula, and you guys must have kind of worked on that when you're talking about, hey, how much do we need to make it? But then once you start doing it, you're like, wait, actually we can make this more efficiently, right? Because you learn new strategies. Like you said, you're always learning. Absolutely.
Well, and especially if you're making great W-2 income, wonderful problem to have. I mean, you got such a big tax burden on that, and every day
you have to deploy something to help it.
Gosh, and all the folks that I've come to know and appreciate in my W-2 network over years, like they make big bonuses on sales commission or on revenue targets for their company at large, and they're like, well, this is just how it is. And I'm like, there are more ways to approach this for the very motivated, right. There's a whole lot of ways to go into that, but no one ever wakes up and just says, oh, I want to go find out how to invest in a piece of a self-storage facility. It's
right.
It's very niche.
It doesn't sound like you can do it. If somebody says, hey, do you want to just take $100,000 and dunk it into an RV park? You're like, why would I do that? But it's hard to get that education there. When you decided to go from those 5 Kansas City rentals and get into LP, were you happy that you had the experience? Because I don't like being a landlord either. It's just not for me. So I love being an LP on multi because I don't have to do anything. But I'm still touching multifamily on a large scale.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things I want to make clear too is that so often I bump into education out there, and you probably have as well.
Yeah.
That is a bit myopic. Said simply, folks are like, hey, burn the boats, screw the stock market, go all in on this or that. And I want to make it clear from my perspective, I've never been that guy. I think very much like folks need to put on like a critical thinking hat and go in with their custom goals in mind for themselves. And when I say that, like when a new LP reaches out and says, hey, I'd love to get your feedback on this, my first question I guide them with is like, what's the goal for the money?
That's great.
Simple as it sounds. Like no matter what someone's IQ is, and no matter how quantitatively strong they are, data science, software engineer, whatever, they need to understand that this is something that has to be matched to your circumstance. So if you're going for growth, you don't need the income. Great.
Right.
Then why are you prioritizing cash flow? Right. Those types of questions. And so for me, the experience was pivotal, like absolutely pivotal, because I learned, oh, well, a person can have a killer deal, but if they have no idea what they're doing, that's not going to go very well. I mean, operationally, they can't manage this property, whether it's a single family or rental, or if it's like a 100 unit multifamily property. Like they got to know what they're doing to some degree. And that was when Jennifer and I put together this like 5-part framework just for vetting the sponsors, that we started to look at for our own money.
Yeah.
And is it perfect? Of course not. There's no such thing as a bulletproof, perfect vetting framework, but you got to take the time. And I have to point out that we still use that framework to this day when we're looking at new deals and new funds and new sponsors. But the past few years have also been incredibly educational. And I mean that in a occasionally very uncomfortable way, right? Because we've had some deals that went home run, awesome full cycle, got some deals that are not looking so good. And unfortunately, that's also just because when you play the game, you're going to have both. Like, no matter what happens. In the stock world, you're going to have both. In the real estate world, you're going to have both.
Startup world, I mean, startup world is a 1 of 100, if you're lucky, and then you hit the home run. I mean, that's kind of it. But do you think that your time in startups helped you? Because I feel like when people talk about how to judge and seek, syndications, you're always looking at the operator first, or you should be. But in startups, a lot of the failures, like great business, bad owner, like doing crazy stuff with the money. I mean, it's very popular in startup world.
Oh man, yes. I chuckle because it's just so accurate. Especially when you see the dynamic of, and let me caveat this by saying I have an incredible true respect for founders.
Oh, me too.
They have to be visionaries, and they have to go into the completely vague, borderline delusion headspace just to get something off the ground. Now, that said, how often do you see a really good founder that's also an operator?
Hope they have a good team. Exactly.
It's so within the world of like real estate betting, I got to say, if we look at we look at these 5 things like track record, team, approach, communications, and values. It's like those 5 buckets with a big old meaty spreadsheet with tabs underneath it for all these vetting criteria we look at. And if I were to put the founders through, I've never founded a tech company. I've founded a real estate business, but if I were to put some of these tech founders through that vetting framework, I'm not sure that they would pass muster, because it requires things like a track record. And sometimes these big, amazing companies are started, and that's the first thing they've ever done. But in real estate, we can look. We really can. We can take a look and say, have they done this thing before? Have they done it before with this asset class? Like if it's a multifamily property in that market, is it a self-storage facility? Is it industrial, et cetera? And so we can really take a look and say, if they did that thing before, what shows us that they're capable of doing it again repeatedly? So I'm grateful for that. It's the best kind of boring if you do it right.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of us who are good investors, I like boring. I mean, boring's great. It's the best. That's what good investors are built on. Boring.
Sleep at night.
I mean, look at Buffett and Munger. Boring as can be. This is exactly what the plan is. But I think, in the world now of social media and everything, where everything's so gamified and looks so good, I think people have trouble not going for the shiny object, because a boring thing's not shiny. It's just like a shade of beige sitting over there. But man, it produces year after year.
To that end, like, you made me realize that, a key learning. I don't know if I'm good at this yet, but I'm trying to educate so many of the folks I know in LPs that are aspiring LPs, and they've never done it before because they've kind of held off for the past 5, 7, 10 years. But they're trying to compare, like, wow, look at the tech returns I can get on this angel. And it's like, well, that's
crypto,
awesome. Crypto, you have like a 25x multiple. Okay.
Both ways, though.
Right. Exactly right. But you're also looking at our best exit on a multifamily in the past 3 years was on the lowest projected return deal. And there's something there to be learned. Clearly it depends. Just to put the legal disclaimer there and say it always depends on the deal, on the team, and the market, et cetera. But there's a real insight there. And like in a challenging market, this more vanilla, run-of-the-mill, mid-teens projected return blew that out of the water. And I think that there's been a resetting on expectations in the past few years. We used to be able to take a look at these beautiful investment summaries for deals that were, projecting like a low 20s IRR, and they might even hit it. And they did. But this is back in 2018, 2019.
Right.
Now, you're seeing stuff that's projected in like the low teens, mid-teens, and people are like, "Oh man, what? That's not good enough." And I'm like, you got to think about it differently. It's a risk-adjusted return on the current context, and ideally this is set responsibly so that they can actually go blow it out of the water.
Hey, it's Jonathan. I hope you're enjoying this episode with Spencer Hilligoss. And if you're interested in what he's got going on at Madison Investing, this type of investing club vibe, it's a little bit different. It might sound really interesting to you. If you're looking for that de-riskification, this might be it. Go to madisoninvesting.com. Right in the middle, there's a thing that says request invitation, and it's on the upper right too. Go to it. Let's get back to Spencer. Yeah, but a recent guest just reminded me when we were talking about something really similar, and he said, "Well, all of the pro formas look good. No one's like sending you, hey, do you want to invest in my deal? And it's a 1% IRR. You know what I mean? So they're all going to show great, but sometimes those ones who are showing true, honest, what we always think, you want to overperform,
Yes.
under promise, overperform, and that could be the winner. Like you're saying, hey, it looks okay, but okay might be really steady. Like a good operator, that's what I want. I mean, I'm learning, as an LP as well. And I look track record, I think is really important because track record shows that you're operationally adept.
Yes.
If you can go full cycle 6 times and they're all good to great, like, at least operationally in that asset class, like they know what they're doing.
Yes.
Whether it's value add or turnover or rent changeover, like that's what I want. And then of course for me, the debt is really important because that's where I think people's numbers got off. They got in, 4%, and now they're on the refi time and it's going to be 7.5%, and now they're in trouble. I mean, that's part of the problem of the non-expectation. And of course, I've asked you like 12 questions in this monologue, but now what I really want to know is that I think like I've seen a lot of LPs who are complaining and blaming it on the sponsors, but it's really just a lack of taking accountability because it was there. Like we should have known. It was in the documents. There's stuff in there. Maybe they didn't do a great job, but there's bad operators, but there's definitely LPs who jump too quick and don't know what they're doing.
Gosh, yeah. And it comes from a place, honestly, of deep empathy and frankly, common experience.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you on that. I think tuition and reminding ourselves that these are tuition moments is pivotal. Like I have some tuition capital I won't see again.
But yeah, right. If you're calling it tuition though, you're phrasing it away like, hey, I paid for education. And that's like, I even looked at that with flips. Like not all my flips in my life went well, but sometimes when it would just be a bad one, I'd make, a little bit or a break even. I'm like, I still get the deposit money back. And yeah, it's a learning experience. I think if people frame it that way, you just have a better outlook on your future success.
Absolutely. Well, and you're leaning on what is controllable, right? This is a controllable go forward basis. How do we apply these learnings? How do we think about things differently? And sharpening of the pencil is what should result, right? If we do this right, I mean, to your point on the debt, that is one of about 5 different things. If you were to do a from to comparison from, pre-2022, before the Fed started hiking rates very dramatically up until now, there's about 5 different things that I'd say that we have sharpened the pencil on significantly in our vetting framework. One of which is, okay, track record. What does that really mean? Like to your point from earlier, we want to see bare minimum of like 3 full cycle exits from an operator to even look at them in the first place and start the conversation. And it's not no, it's not yet. However, the approach, and by approach, what I mean is there was some incredibly good looking track records from the operators who got in, they exited a truckload of deals in 2021, right? And suddenly, wow, look at that track record. They've got these incredible eye-popping IRRs, right? Well, what about the approach on paper shows us they can go replicate that again? And so taking it to that step further and really helping it play out on what's the exit strategy, how they're going to make the capital go to work and how they're making it come back. Like I would say that's a key area in addition to the debt. And also one of the things that has been popping up very frequently, I'd say, is preferred equity. Like we all talk about this thing about preferred returns. not being the same as cash flow, like those fundamental learnings. And the most asked and answered question in the history of LP investing, what is a preferred return, and isn't it the same as a cash flow distribution projection? Still not the same for all listening parties. But the term preferred equity and the capital stack on a great deal, an otherwise great deal, can actually get a bit harrowing. Yeah. If you have a bigger institutional partner that's investing alongside you in that capital stack, and all of a sudden they say, I think this deal is going okay, but could be going better. Let's just force them to go sell this property.
Yeah.
And wipe out everyone's equity. Right. And so I'm not trying to be scary for folks, but these are the types of things that you really got to sit down and take the time, and take the time to review before you jump into a great deal, because they do exist. And the deal flow is opening up a bit from the past couple of years. And so that's what we're taking a look at, is well-structured, great deals with operators that actually have done this before. And they're in it for the long haul,
Yeah, and I found that the best operators want to have those discussions, because the best operators know that not all their investors are going to come back for various reasons. They want to redeploy the money. So they always, even though they have a waiting list, they always want a steady influx of, new, intelligent people who are good fits as LPs, as you were saying before. Does this meet the strategy? Hey, this is a value add. You're not getting any money for the first 18 months. Do you understand that? And they're like, oh, no, I thought I got paid right away. I mean, these are things I think even before I really knew about syndications, even when I started to learn about them, I just figured, you put the money in and you get a return right away. But that's not all of them at all. There's a lot of different things. And obviously there's funds. And so there's a lot of research to do. And I mean, Brian Burke's book, The Hands-Off Investor, was a real eye-opener to me. I've had him on the show and I was just like, that's something you created your own framework, and I think that you need that, because you have to keep redeveloping it as things change. But your 5 core things there, those are always going to exist, as you said, and you're still pushing them forward.
Yeah. By the way, Brian Burks is one of the best, I'd say, in the space. Just a killer read for anyone who looks for a primer,
I love it because it really sets up what you need to do. It's very overwhelming. You get to the middle and you're like, this thing's not done yet. I feel like I've been in school for 4 years on this. But that's what you have to do to make sure that you're doing it the right way.
Oh, truly. It also just some style and preference things that would really have been helpful to understand before I get my first, before you wire your 50K or 100K on the first deal, which is things like, what do I consider to be good enough communication for my personal standards and frequency and style, and even as simple as some folks are hardcore saying, I want monthly distributions and monthly updates. And it's I used to care a lot more about that. What I care about a lot more now is, do I know it's being professionally run, and will I get accurate financial reporting on a quarterly basis minimum? That's it. Is there a staffed financial person, W-2, in that business? If there's not, that's a major red flag. You got to have a person who actually can put together a professionally packaged financial document. Yeah. And if you don't have that, and it can be a very pretty, sexy looking email, but it needs that. That's just one of the cornerstones of how to do it right.
Yeah. One thing that I've learned that I feel like some LPs don't take advantage of, for me, I feel like I'm learning about multifamily all the time when I just read the monthlies. I'm now I feel like I could do this if I wanted to. And if I wanted to even do it on my own or with partners, I feel like I'm getting a better idea because I'm watching, hey, these are the things we've renovated. This is how many unit turnovers. This is what our rent's at. Those monthlies, I read every single second, every word of them, because they're not that long, but they're very informative. And I feel like that's it's a huge education. I'm paying in for this and I'm also getting paid out. Great. But man, the learning opportunity, I feel like if you're deleting that from your inbox, you're losing, because you're not seeing that you could do better on the next one by paying attention to what's going on there. Do you agree with that?
Oh, I love it. Completely agree. Well, we all learn more and we pay more attention when we have skin in the game as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I mean, we put the money in and we're like, okay. And I don't mean in every deal, but as soon as I put that first 25K in and then 50K in, I was like, to your point, oh, I want to look at that deal. oh, I want to look at this deal. Not with the intent of deploying stuff and across all of them,
Yeah.
but just for the education to nerd out on them, and just start putting together some numbers in my own spreadsheets.
It's a nerd thing. Like those of us who like, I just like it. I just like to see a breakdown of what's happening.
Yes.
And it just makes me feel more a part of it. Like stocks, you can't value add, and you don't learn anything. You can just look, oh, it went up, it went down. Oh, the CEO did something. How does that affect my value? This, I really feel like, oh, okay. Like I was just reading one. I've been a big, like 250 plus units in Dallas. I was just reading the breakdown. And a lot of people in Dallas didn't do well. These guys doing a great job. And I looked at it and it's like, wow, I knew right away when I read it that their monthly turnover is getting better and better and they're leasing more. And I know all about it. And I was wondering, like, I wonder if everybody reads these as much as I do. There's so much information in there. And again, I'm in it. Like you said, I have skin in the game. I should be interested. But have you encountered LPs who are just kind of like a little bit too detached, I would say? Because I've seen a lot who've invested their first 50K with literally doing no due diligence just because they've thought it was going to be passive. So they think like even their due diligence is passive.
Yeah, gosh, that is the big message I always try to convey. So I fully agree with this, which is it's passive once you get in the deal.
Right, exactly. That's great. Right. Yeah, that's great.
I mean, because I don't know what's passive about reading a 100 plus page intense legal document, which is like 75% legal boilerplate about risk.
Yeah.
But to your point, the number I was tracking, the metric I was tracking for a good while after we launched our first few deals to our investing club was like, okay, how often are people looking at the first financial report? Right. And this is not anything revolutionary. This is just like the P&L. Right. And after that first one, it was a pretty good opening rate. The open rate was high. Yeah. But after you get past that first one, it falls off a cliff. And on one hand, I would say this is passive. It's not intended to dominate someone's life. Most people, they're getting into this because they are not as nerdy about it as you and I are, Jonathan. So
right. You're right.
More power to them. Right.
They don't want to do that work on their own. So they're going to outsource it. Smart idea. Yeah.
But however, if it's this has happened in a reality, right? Like if it's all of a sudden like, oh, they're exiting the deal. And I didn't even realize that was something that was coming up.
Exactly.
Well, it was communicated for the past 6 months.
Yeah, 7 times.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the thing though. Our inboxes are overwhelming. We all sign up for too much stuff. So if for investing, you really should just have a separate inbox or at least make sure that you're prioritizing because you could easily end up that person, wait, I didn't know they're doing a second capital raise. I didn't even know that. Well,
right.
It is disclosed. And that's what I was saying before. I think that I've encountered, especially like in the forums and in Bigger Pockets and even on Passive Pockets, there's people complaining and then other people will get in and say, no, man, that was all in there. Like no one's knowing you signed up for this. Maybe they did do a bad job, but you have to look at yourself. Like we all know that there's risk involved. Nothing in this is free without risk. You have to know that you're taking on the risk. And so for people like you and I, we're trying to get the maximum educated risk that we can. And then I personally feel better. I'm sure you do too. But like if you go in and you don't do your due diligence and you hope for the best, don't blame it on the operator, even if they did a bad job. You signed up for it.
Gosh, yes. I mean, at least I try to be very compassionate and empathetic on this topic because I get it. Like very smart people thriving in their careers, their primary careers, they jump into this and they apply the same level of quantitative rigor, but they don't necessarily apply the qualitative rigor because that hinges on understanding the person and the real estate business. And
exactly,
unfortunately, the weighting of where the risk is really taken and mitigated is on the people. There is a good, healthy chunk, of course, on the financial for the debt, rent growth assumptions, all these other things. But if you are a hardcore quantitative, as so many people that are good friends and LPs that I invest alongside in our deals, like they try to look at that pro forma first, and they're like, "Okay, I did my full review." I'd be like, "Well, do you have a good sense as to how this business plan is going to exit? Like what the exit strategy is on this?" And they're like, "Well, no." And I was like, "Well, then you're probably going to get frustrated with the outcome because it's a 5 to 7 year hold period on an illiquid deal.
Right.
So
Illiquid is the key. And I think that's where people make a lot of mistakes. They think it's a tradable asset or sooner than they thought, because even people used to think, oh, well, it'll turn. Everything's so easy. They'll just sell it in 3 years because they're done so hot. Well, no, not anymore. Like that can't happen. So yeah, good points.
I mean, yeah, everything from that to, we get a lot of K1 forms every year, tax forms, and folks will be like, well, so I'm going to get this right on March 31st. Yeah. For the prior year, we get this tax form, this beautiful bonus depreciation we're expecting to get. So that'll come out right on time. And it's like, well, I'm just candidly, I get roughly half of the couple dozen K1s I get right now in the summer. And so I extend my tax filings literally every year.
Yeah. Mine were all on time. I wanted to pivot though for a sec. So you've called Madison Investing an investing club. So explain what that is for everybody. We've had all different kinds of syndications, clubs on. So what do you guys do and why do you do it that way?
Yeah, happy to speak to it. So it started organically. I mean, Jennifer and I were just investing our own money, as we talked about, and then it became very clear within my tech colleagues in the community I was working in. They were like, "I don't want to get on a plane. I like this asset class. I don't want to go take a look at that apartment out in Dallas. I don't want to go take a look at that self-storage facility out in Georgia." And they said, "Well, how do we get involved?" And so that became very clear. Like, okay, folks want to understand the deals and the deal flow we're looking at. They want to benefit, or at least to look at some of the education and vetting that we've done on the sponsor and the deal in the market. And that's how it originally started. And so, I've been both active and passive, now we approach it in a couple different ways, which is like, if we find a great fund, like we've been investing in private credit now for about 2 years, very specific version of that. And we'll do like a feeder fund for that where we get better terms. So, right. So we invest in a lot of our investors will invest alongside us to get better returns than they would get unless they went directly to the operator.
So sorry for the listeners, it's basically like kind of fund of funds. You're bringing other people together with you so that when you invest in it, you have a bigger fund, thereby getting a better return. You're just bringing more money to the table for them.
Exactly right. Yeah. And we've already done very thorough due diligence on like the who, doing not just the background checks. That's always the basic stuff, but all the stuff we've talked about already so far, Jonathan. And so that is what we've done, and we're doing it now. We're looking at private credit to do that. We've also, I go real nerdy and real deep on the relationship building, and the education. So when folks want to understand how we're looking at the deal, like we go a lot of video content, a lot of analysis. There was a time in and around before COVID, we would do some like live meetups and stuff like that. But now it's all virtual because you can get so much done just connecting with other folks that way. But it's a labor of love. I meet every new member personally. We connect, we get to know each other, and I've made some just wonderful friends over the course of like 8 years of doing this now. We don't advertise. We're not trying to scale it to the moon. I would rather just do this in a way that makes sense to work with people and invest alongside people who mutually appreciate each other's company.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from a GP's point of view, that's a great person to be able to link with you, because you're bringing vetted people into a bigger pot, but you have control over them. It's just a better thing. Like you're there, you're going to manage them. So they can just basically have you as an investor, Madison Investing in your group, but you're going to take care of them. So they don't need to worry about them. It's a trickle down where you're the buffer in between them. So for the people investing with you, it's great because like you said, they can listen to you, but they don't have to go all the way up the chain. You're going to summarize it for them. So I like it. You're kind of a conduit in the middle of the deal for them. So it works well for both sides.
Yeah, done right, it should feel good for everybody, and of course, I always tell folks, like, I'm going to arm you with all the education vetting that we've done. You're still making your own decision, right?
Yeah,
I mean, to your point from earlier as well, Jonathan, like this is something where I don't want someone to wake up 3 years into a hold period on a 5 to 7 year deal and say, what the hell have I done? Right?
It happens.
that is not a win for anyone.
I need my money. Okay, nothing I can do.
Right, and so I just want to make it clear, like we do only work with fellow like accredited investors. It's not about liking people one way or the other. That's just we found to be a much better fit in terms of de-risking and who should play in this whole private market space in the big picture.
Yeah. So when you're getting together the group, is it all local to where you are? Or are you now finding just with more outreach that you're having more people come in that are maybe outside of the tech space or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, we have hundreds of folks now that have one by one individually onboarded into our group, and so I'd say it's about an even split between 50% roughly tech folks, and
Oh,
then
nice. Yeah.
and then you have a smattering of folks all over the country. I mean, it really runs the gamut. I'd say another, if there's two personas or profiles, first one would be that tech person who's been in their career maybe 5 to 8 years, dual income. They've got a couple kids, might even have a generation of parents living with them or planning to.
Yeah.
And they're looking to they don't want to quit their job. Like if they're like a data scientist at Apple, they don't want to leave. They actually enjoy
I want their job. That sounds grewe
they're making like $400K more in W-2 income, right? And so that's kind of roughly persona one. And persona two is actually we have a lot of like entrepreneurs, like successful folks that have been maybe a second business, third business, and more traditional industries. I mean, you got folks doing all kinds of stuff with physical goods, and so that's been a really fun relationship building process with so many of these folks. Is like I learn about what they do, and you hear folks from other walks of life, and this is in the South and the Midwest, East Coast, and beyond.
Yeah, I really like the idea of how this started. And to me, it seems like more accessible to somebody like me, even from an overhaul. I feel like I've always wanted, like, I don't want to run a syndication, but I like helping people. Like, I mean, this podcast is literally about helping people invest more mindfully. So
Totally.
It really is like that middle ground is really helpful. And I think, again, as we were talking about a little bit before, there's so much out there on social media and shiny objects that to be able to just, for someone now who's maybe been investing with you for a few years, they can really ask you a question about anything and you're going to have a more well-rounded response than them just trying to go down a rabbit hole on YouTube, and a lot of younger people are doing that. They're feeding into ChatGPT, which is good, but it still can't tell you what you've learned actually by doing all of these deals and by talking to all these other investors and their experience. You basically have a collective experience from these couple hundred investors. That's more valuable than ChatGPT to me.
Yeah, and I mean, passing along the learnings. I mean, selfishly, I have learned an incredible amount from these other folks, right? Because they're out there trying to assemble their own family offices, or they're trying to go out and create some kind of whole life insurance plan for themselves. And some of these things I don't go super deep on them, and I'm not trying to become an expert in them, but I want to know enough to be able to sit there and say, okay, am I helping folks get on the right track? And am I on the right track? Right. And so to your point, it's a joy to like look at it from that perspective of like long-term relationship building. These are folks that we're going to be in deals with and funds with for 5 to 10 years. So like, that's longer than college.
Yeah, right. And they're not getting out. So
Exactly right.
Yeah. Before we hop off, I wanted to get your take on this because with a lot of people who are helping people invest in syndications, I've started to think that I'm giving a lot of advice for younger people who have high-paying jobs and maybe aren't interested in owning a home and they don't have the time to be an active investor. I think you can go right to passive investing, like being an LP if you're accredited. I think it's a great idea. And as I was saying, I think you can learn. What do you think about that for someone who didn't stop in Kansas City and do their own, landlording to find out that they hate it like most of us do?
Yeah.
Can someone go right into passive investing and feel comfortable with that?
Gosh, I appreciate that question. I think for the curious, accredited individual, the answer is absolutely.
Yeah, I think so too.
The curiosity is a big part of it because you got to climb that hump. You got to get up that learning curve. I mean, when I got into it, you don't have to go do what I did. What I did was read $24 in a 18-month period. Really over the top, unnecessary procrastination at that point.
Let me just order one more.
I mean, but I did listen to, 400 plus podcasts, like just maniacal.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think your podcast is a great example of what to do right in terms of being selective on the right education.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, the right depth. It's just, it's a wealth of knowledge and you don't have to get everything. Go for quality over quantity. The answer is absolutely.
Yeah. I've just seen with the way that home prices are and what people are used to investing to, sure, I love index funds. I'm a very diversified investor. I love it. And, syndications to me are my kind of real estate, index funds. I know I can't touch the money. I'm like, protect myself from myself. And I love it. But I really see this new kind of version of people they're making a lot of money, like you said, but they're not doing anything advantageous with taxes. And like all this real estate sitting out there, but they think that it's too hard. So maybe this is just an alarm bell, like, hey, if you don't want to be active, there's other things out there. But as you're saying, like, you do need to be involved in the due diligence. You can't be passive about finding out about it. I love what you said before. Yeah, it's only passive after you're in the deal. That makes so much sense to me. And everybody who's been an LP is like, oh, yeah, that's right.
They're like, just brace yourself. But then once you're in, it's going to feel great.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome, man. Is the best place for people to get in touch with you guys at MadisonInvesting.com?
Yes, it is. Yeah, that's our website. And folks can reach out to me and set up time to connect if they want. And
And that's traditional accredited investors is who you work with. So they need to meet the criteria, which we're not going to go over, but you can look up on ChatGPT. It's pretty simple.
Yes, that's correct. And now if sometimes folks are unclear even after reading that because it is it's confusing, right? So feel free to reach out. I've helped folks kind of like take a look and give them a yes, no based on the
I think you're right. It's only not confusing if you obviously meet one of the criteria.
Right.
I mean? It's like, oh, you have more than $1 million in your account. Okay, you're good. But like there are ways to that it could be confusing in terms of what you're considering assets. Yeah, I agree with that.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I'm glad that we got connected and it's just been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I really enjoyed the conversation.
No, this has been a blast. Like really appreciate the depth of conversation, Jonathan. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right. That was Spencer Hilligoss, CEO and co-founder of Madison Investing. Again, you can find them at MadisonInvesting.com. I'm Jonathan Greene. We'll see you next episode. Thanks for sticking around to the end so you can get a preview on who's coming up on the next episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. And I'm calling next episode the most New York show that you've ever heard. Two old school New Yorkers talking a lot about New York, but also a lot about lending. My guest is Steve Afra of Investor Funding. Fast and reliable private money, a lot of fix and flip loans. That's what we're talking about. We'll see you next episode with Steve.